the Chinese Communist Party and a lot of their larger corporations, they've been buying up strategic resources, and they've been, like I said, buying up real estate and driving up the real estate market prices. But that's only the the core of the problem is that these investors and these Chinese communist agents in Australia, they are not acting with the interest of Australia in mind, and they are acting with China and the People's Republic of China, acting with that regime's interest in mind. And when Australian land and Australian resources are put to work, the value isn't going back into the local economy that the government would have expected, or that the community would have expected. It's sucked out, and then it's gone into other sources and channels back into the mainland Chinese economy and mainland Chinese regime as sustenance. And that, at the end of the day, is the problem. If an immigrant starts a business here and then it contributes them into the local economy, as I think that most Hong Kongers would do if we do get the chance to come to Australia, I don't think that would be a problem.
Well, so something you mentioned earlier, that I think is very important as an example that Hong Kong has for the rest of the world. The Communist Party did not keep its promise with Hong Kong. And yet, Hong Kong should be an example for the rest of the world. We should see how the Chinese Communist Party does not value what it promises. And yet we still have Australia's a good example. Around the world, governments and especially corporations still eager to get into China, to work with the Chinese Communist Party, completely oblivious to the very real history of it, ignoring promises in the cases of corporations, stealing intellectual property and running businesses out of the country. So Hong Kong, I think, plays a very important model. Hong Kong is a good example for the rest of the world that the rest of the world should learn from. But it still seems like people have this sort of blinders on when dealing with the Chinese Communist Party.
Right, yeah, definitely. Well, they're trying to pitch the same, very similar plan to the Taiwanese as well. And I'm just grateful to see that it's not going through anytime soon. Yes, there is a tendency for the wider community to ignore lessons from history. And a lot of the times there's some sort of exceptionalism, I feel, from all sorts of different countries and cultures when it comes to dealing with the Chinese Communist Party. Well, here in Australia as well, I didn't quite know what was going through the Premier's mind, but Victoria, the state of Victoria, almost went into a Belt and Road Agreement to have Chinese capital and Chinese Communist Party act in Victoria and act with Victoria's government. And it was only when it went to a federal level when it was turned down. I don't know where quite the problem is, but it doesn't take a history lesson or history class. We just have to look to our neighbors at this point, right?
It does seem that there's a little bit of that, it has to happen to you before you kind of realize what's happening. Do you feel like over the summer, China launched essentially a type of economic warfare against the Australian government? We're trying to block Australian imports, all this kind of stuff. Have you seen a change in Australia in the attitude towards the Chinese Communist Party since that started happening?
I would say certain members or certain politicians have. It's definitely not a consensus. It definitely isn't where we want it yet. I mean, just a couple of months ago, an Australian professor working right now in the Chinese mainland, writing an article on me and on the ABC, condemning us, or condemning the ABC for terrorism and aiding and abetting terrorism, basically along those lines. I mean, when scholars are allowed to do that, when Australian scholars are actively doing that in Australia and abroad, and politicians as well, when they're still trying to ignore the basic fact that what's happening in Xinjiang province right now, or occupied East Turkestan right now, is a genocide, and would use different trickery of words to get around saying it, like cultural genocide or atrocities, stuff like that. When they can't really, when they are fearing just condemning a genocide, I think we've still quite some ways to go.